People dream of Ardbeg Day on Islay.
The rolling hills, the ocean views, and smoky whiskey in your glass.
Also, temperatures that make Texans regret their life choices.
So, if Islay and that peated whiskey doesn't come with Texas weather,
we're bringing Ardbeg to Houston.
Yeah, we're combining Islay peat and Texas heat. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Noble Dram. Aaron and Gavin here. We're going to take a journey today to Islay without ever leaving Houston.
Not even a journey. It's an adventure.
Okay, an adventure. We're tasting Ardbeg Scotch in honor of this Saturday being Ardbeg Day. But more importantly, we have Mr. Ardbeg himself, David Blackmore, the global brand ambassador for Ardbeg in Glenmorangie. David, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
It pales in comparison to how excited Gavin is.
I'm so excited. And the accent, there's just something about the accent.
I pride myself on doing a little bit of background research, and
dear.
I was doing some digging, and I saw an article that referred to David as bringing the suaveness and Scottishness to Ardbeg. And I thought,
oh my God.
I don't know how you bring Scottishness to Ardbeg. It's pretty Scottish to begin with. But
well, I haven't read that article, so that's interesting.
The suaveness, I really enjoy.
Suave.
All right, so yes. David,
yes.
The episodes are a little bit bourbon, a little bit Scotch, and so we always kind of like to give a little background. So, Ardbeg, located on Islay.
Yeah.
Where's Islay?
Islay, the
southwest coast of Scotland.
The greatest island on the planet.
I would say so.
I
would say so. Yeah.
Actually, she is the Queen of the Hebrides.
There you go. Look at this guy. He's poetic.
I know.
So located there on this kind of the southern coast, right there along the heart of Islay distilleries, right?
Yeah.
Just down the road from Lagavulin and Lafroig.
Distillery.
Yeah, excellent. So the problem with this is we always start without a glass in our hand, and I think it's important for us to have a glass in our hand. So Gavin, would you be so kind?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
First and foremost, David. Do you have? There you go. All right.
This David, hold your glass out.
Fancy crystal cut Glencairn.
Oh my gosh. We need to get David a Noble Dram.
Is that the kind of thing they give you after you've worked there for 20 years or something?
No, it's something that a buddy of mine gave me. A good friend of mine who likes whiskey gave me this last week, actually. So.
Oh no, Gavin broke it. Gavin broke it.
We're gonna have to.
God.
No, hold up.
You know what you have to do now?
We have to push it in there.
If the cork's broken, that's it. The seal's broken. You can't leave that bottle undone.
Oh, we got
the bottle.
There's lots of things we can do.
Pour and I'll strain later.
All right.
We're starting with the 10, right?
Yes, we're starting Ardbeg 10.
There it is.
So, oh good Lord, do you pour as heavy as Gavin does?
Well, see, I'm on a one-man mission to prove to the world that this rumor that mostly the English put about that the Scots are tight and mean is absolute bullshit. So yes, I do. I pour pretty heavy.
Yes, finally, a man after my own heart.
I like it.
Absolutely.
Right,
and I like to dribble it everywhere. So if you've never seen an episode, anything that spills outside of the glass, I use it as cologne.
Oh yeah, no. Do you know what, guys? That's so funny. One of the guys, when I first got into the industry back in the day, when I moved, I had a few years in London, in Edinburgh working in the industry, and then I moved to London for a couple of years, right before I came to the US. And one person in particular who kind of took me under his wing, and his whole thing was that he at the end of a tasting, particularly on Islay whiskies, he would dip his finger in it, and he was somewhat follically challenged as well, and he would rub it all over his head like this, and then dap it behind his ears like this, and say, I'm off on a date. I'm off on a date. How do you think it's going to go?
As long as you don't get pulled over by a cop, I think you'll be okay, because you're going to have a hard time explaining.
The dentist, it's fine.
Yeah. It's just, unless it's a female cop.
That's true. She'll want his number.
Yeah.
That's just how it works.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, Gavin, tell us just a little bit about the bottle. And then we'll delve into stories.
Ardbeg Distillery, has been around for a long time. We've got a foundation date of 1815 and probably actually distilling before that. But we've had a very up and down history. If you go to the 1880s, we were the biggest distillery on Islay. If you go to the 1980s, we were completely shut. And that leads me to the kind of the kind of most recent saving of Ardbeg, 1997. And that's when the Glenmorangie company came in and rescued Ardbeg. And why I'm telling you that is really that was where we decided, after launching the kind of iconic 17, a few years after that, that's when we decided that the Ardbeg 10 needed to be the flagship expression of Ardbeg. So the bottle shape you see now, and to some extent the style of Ardbeg in the 10-year-old kind of dates largely from that era, although it's very recognizably Ardbeg. We haven't changed how we distill, but what we put in the bottle as a 10-year-old, this is our flagship. It's entirely aged in American oak ex-bourbon barrels. We're using first and second fill, a little bit of third fill barrels, and Ardbeg's all about that smoke, that peat. We use more heavily peat smoked barley, higher phenolic content in the barley than any other distillery in day-to-day, everyday production. So that maybe comes through in the whiskey. It might not as well, because there's a few aspects of the distillery, like our purifier, that kind of surprise people. It allows us to peat our barley to such high levels. But actually, when you get it in the nose, listen, it's Islay. It's big time Islay.
Sure,
but
sure. It smells like Islay, like crazy.
And you're so right. Ardbeg. One thing I always say about Ardbeg is I don't know another wine or spirit that instantly takes you to the place it's from, like Ardbeg. I'm sitting on the end of that old pier, the mossy old pier with a bit of old seaweed and the sea spray and the smell of the distillery functioning, and maybe a waft from a few miles down the road from Port Ellen Maltings. All of that, just right there.
So here's a question for you, David. What does Ardbeg smell like at like 6 a.m. in the morning? Like when you walk in, what does it smell like?
Well, it very much depends what part of the distillery you're walking into and what we're doing. But because if the production is on and you're walking into fermentation, you might not get much of a smoky note at all. You're getting these kind of lovely fruity notes, the sort of things you'd expect from fermentation. If you're walking into the still house, it's a different thing. Again, there's some of that smoke, but a lot of fruit there as well. If you are in a warehouse, that's where it's really at. If you're walking into a warehouse, certainly if anyone's disgorging next door, any of that, then it's this incredible smoky note. But what I would say overall is 6 o'clock in the morning, if you're walking around Ardbeg Distillery, what the overall sense I get is of just purity. There's this fresh air. There's the crisp, there's the ocean, and I'm not saying that directly influences the whiskey. It almost certainly doesn't. But it's, humans we're interesting beings. We make associations, and there's definitely an association there for sure with that salinity that you would get if you just walked around the buildings there, and overall just a sense of calm and freshness and purity if you're walking around that distillery at 6 a.m.
To your point, as big Islay whiskey fans, there is never a doubt when you put your nose in the glass that came from Ardbeg.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
For most people who aren't real familiar with Islay, I think they all want to say they're the same. And when you really delve into, some distilleries are closer to others, but Ardbeg really stands apart. It's been a huge debate in my house between my father and I over
You still live with your dad?
Which is quintessential. I mean, my greater
I'm just
house,
kidding.
the house McDonald, right?
The house of. It's like the royal household.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel about it. Is Ardbeg 10, Lefroy 10, or Lagavulin, which is like the quintessential Islay. And it's hard because they're so distinctly different. Those three, which are often lumped together, really aren't the same.
Yeah. Here's the thing for me. I think that you don't have to choose one as the essence of Islay. I'd love to be able to tell you, yes, I think it's Ardbeg, and often it is. But Ardbeg is the essence of Ardbeg. That's fairly obvious. The place it's from. Lagavulin and Lefroy are epically good whiskies. They're amazing, and we are so proud to be neighbors with these guys, and it's that generations of families have family members working at each of them right now. I mean, one of the boys who used to work at Ardbeg, his social media, I can't remember exactly, but his Instagram handle has Ardbeg in the name. And he hasn't worked for us for like 8 years. He's over at Lefroy. It's hilarious, But his brother works for us.
I get the impression that if you live on Islay, you either run a bed and breakfast or work at a distillery, because that's about the only two things, or farm.
Actually, you probably do both. Really, I mean, the thing about Islay is it certainly has been for many years now pretty close to full employment, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Not all the jobs are full time, so there will be people doing more than one job at the same time. Particularly in the non-tourist season, you'll find people. For example, some of the guys that work that I know of that work at the 3 South Shore distilleries. Yep, they work at the distillery, but they're also fishermen. They also have a croft. They also, she's now moved on to Port Natrun, but Jackie Thompson, our distillery visitor center manager until about a year ago, I wouldn't call it a job, but she absolutely loves the fact that she has a croft. She's got chickens, all the rest of it. So, there's a blurring of the lines there a bit too. But yeah, most people seem to have a couple of jobs at least.
Well, so speaking of people at the distillery, I'm routinely amazed at such a small number of people that actually produce such a large amount of whiskey. And you may not know the exact number, but ballpark, how many people work at Ardbeg?
I genuinely don't know the current number because there's been a few changes recently. We're probably, if you took in the visitor center staff, and this would be a different number from summer to winter, 20.
Yeah.
20.
That's amazing to think
that a worldwide recognizable brand is produced by 20 people is awesome.
And this isn't actually that we have massively automated things, because actually, guys, the running of the physical, the running of the distillery from fermentation, distillation could be run by one guy on shift at any one time. You could totally set it up like that. And there are distilleries like that. The more labor intensive part is warehousing, that side of things,
cleaning.
But
Cleaning.
we definitely don't do that. We definitely don't do that. And the joke was, this is a joke I heard years ago about some distilleries' attitude to it, and that's that they like their distilleries run by one man and a dog, and the man is just there to feed the dog, and the dog is just there to make sure the man doesn't touch anything.
I like that a lot.
That's really funny.
But certainly, our ethos at the Glenmorangie Company, with our two very different distilleries, Glenmorangie and Ardbeg, couldn't be really much further apart, physically and flavor-wise. But it's weird to think that we have the same ownership, and this predates Moet Hennessy, and the same creative director, Dr. Bill Lumsden, is the guy behind both of them. It's kind of interesting.
I don't want to spend too much time on Glenmorangie just because this is about Ardbeg Day, right? Yeah. We'll have you back on and we'll talk Glenmorangie another day.
That would be cool.
It's been one of the running jokes that anytime somebody asks me if I'd recommend a bottle of scotch, I always say buy something from Glenmorangie. I've never had one that I didn't think was excellent.
That's great to hear.
And then you guys came out with one I wasn't a fan of, but we'll
I think
talk
I know
about
what
that
it is.
another
Let's take that. I might actually even write it down right now, and then I'll share it to you later after the recording, because I can guess
that would be fun.
That is.
But I do want to talk just a minute about what you said. As a brand that has two Scotch distilleries that couldn't be any further apart,
totally.
As a global brand ambassador whose job is to figure out how to sell two drastically opposite products, can you talk just a bit about kind of the struggles that you face being a sales group that needs to figure out how to sell two things that quite often don't have the same audience?
I don't think there's a struggle at all. Personally speaking, from my personal point of view, being an ambassador for both brands, it just absolutely fits into everything that's me. I'm pretty much a very ADHD guy. My team of ambassadors might have a nickname for me behind my back. I've heard it. It's ADH David. But
we all have nicknames. It's okay.
Joking aside, I think that what is the most fabulous thing about this whole global whiskey kind of hobby that we're all part of, and I think of myself largely as a hobbyist who works in the industry. That's how I got into it. I'm just passionately, I love tasting these whiskeys. And what I've really discovered is that the biggest variable in the whole massively variable, complex world of whiskey is probably the human at the end of the whole experience. The day that the same bottle of whiskey can taste different 2 days in a row to me, and who I'm with, definitely how tired I am, how jet lagged I am. You can tell I'm an ambassador, but how dehydrated I am. These things matter. And what's brilliant about whiskey is that people, place, situation, environment, who you're with, all these sort of memories from the past and the memories that you're developing as you're drinking these whiskeys fundamentally affect what you're into at that moment in time. And some days Ardbeg is all it's about. I'm about to have, 10 days of just Islay whiskey, and that's brilliant. But there are other days when, Glenmorangie is just such a precise whiskey that it takes my breath away sometimes. The Glenmorangie 18-year-old, as much as I'm passionately in love with Ardbeg, Glenmorangie 18-year-old for me is the whiskey that if I had a gun put to my head and told you going to a desert island, you are never getting off, choose your last bottle. That's it. Glenmorangie 18. It's just...
I'm
So
we're so glad you said that.
So we literally, like, the second episode of this show we ever did was you're getting off, the plane's going down and you're going to be stuck on the desert island. What bottle do you take?
I love that question because it's different to what's your favorite whiskey, because it has to be the one that you are reliably going to like every single day until you snuff it on the island. And Ardbeg Ugadal or Corryvreckan very often is all I want to drink. But there are days when I don't want to see that in my life. So I have to choose the one that I know will absolutely blow my socks off, and that's Glenmorangie 18.
Eloquently put.
Yeah. I mean, we did an episode at Easter where we had to have our Easter basket of whiskeys. And Nectar
Noir made that basket for us.
That for me, the 18 is just, do you know what? And I've finished it. I don't want to, but this bad boy, I don't even know where the bottle. Oh, here's the old bottle. I literally have nothing left in this. This was the Azuma Makoto 23-year-old. I know we're getting into Glenmore now, but if there was ever a Glenmore that impressed me more than our 18, that 23 in is it white Burgundy? I forget. It's white wine. Anyway,
that sounds right. That sounds right. It's the white Burgundy, if my memory serves right.
Stunning whiskey, and the absolute alternate universe to Ardbeg. You know, it couldn't be more different. People are often
kind of like Aaron and I, the dichotomy.
Yeah, like I'm good looking and Gavin is not very big. I mean, all those things that are different.
One's smart.
I tend to wear black shirts with a collar. He wears black shirts without a collar.
As a very graying ginger now, you're losing. You're fighting a losing battle. Us gingers stick together. We're not.
That's right.
We've been persecuted so much.
How do you know I'm not redheaded?
He hasn't been in the sun much. That's why.
Yeah,
he doesn't have a sunburn up there yet.
I don't know, and I don't want to find out.
We did get a little bit off into the Glenmorangie. Let's come back to what's whiskey in the glass, and let's talk a little bit about walk people through what we get in the glass that haven't tried it. And what I'll say is, if you've never tried Ardbeg 10, you're a damn fool. It is
easy killer.
No, it's not only a very tasty Islay Scotch. At its price point, it shouldn't dissuade you from trying something new, right? If you've never gotten into Islay and peated stuff, I think it's excellent. It's at a price point. I actually think it's fun to work Islay peated whiskeys into cocktails. Yeah, it adds a smoky note to it. Ardbeg 10's at a price point. I think MSRP is like $55, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. And actually, Wee Beastie. I know we're not talking about tasting Wee Beastie tonight, but at the price point, Wee Beastie is have at it, as we'd say in Scotland. Yes. You know, Ardbeg. The only thing about our Ardbeg cocktails is that if you do a version of a classic cocktail with Ardbeg, you might never want to go back. I mean, Ardbeg Bloody Marys have ruined early morning flights for me because no airline currently serves Ardbeg miniatures on board, so I can't get an Ardbeg Bloody Mary on board a flight.
Can't you talk to somebody about
that? Like a global ambassador or somebody?
Watch this space. Work in progress.
All right, I like it.
The issue right now is actually not at the airline in question. It's us, because the airlines, either because of weight or I'm not sure if it's actually a safety requirement, they need plastic mini bottles, PET mini bottles, and we're not set up to do them. We only have glass minis. So trying to persuade the team in Scotland.
If you need a guy, I've got a funnel. I'll start filling them here at the house.
Now.
You might nip a few. But
unfortunately, rebottling Scotch whiskey outside of Scotland is breaching the Scotch whiskey laws.
Well, then I got bad news for you, because I got a box of breeches all over there.
Well, you can do
breeches.
breeches. Sell it.
It's been a thing that I've done here for a while. Is that as we get near the end of a bottle, when I get down to that point, I'll pour off, and I buy several hundred of these empty plastic bottles at a time, and then I put a label on the outside as to what it is, and I have got a collection of these little bottles that's one last pour of all sorts of stuff I've tried.
I love that.
The problem I've run into is I'm not sure when to drink them, because ultimately the reason I poured them is
because
what happens if I want that again and I can't have it again. My fear is what I'm doing is creating boxes of whiskey for my kids to drink after I'm gone. That's my fear, right?
That's good. That's good. That's good. You should take little luggage tags and write messages on them and add them to the bottles.
So you're implying that there's sweet notes of love and endearment to my children. Don't you dare drink this, is what mine would say.
They could have things like, surprise, I'm dead. I'm going to haunt you if you drink this.
All right, let's talk for a sec on the nose. Gavin, I expect David to know what you should get on the nose. He's probably done this once or twice before.
Take it away. I mean, I don't want to lead the jury.
So I think obviously you get smoke. I think there's a bit of sea salt, seaweed. There's a slight sweetness. I even put bread. I think the yeastiness. There's a bread note that I get off of it.
Yeah.
Citrus.
Yeah. To me, one of those tippers that I'm sipping Ardbeg is the citrus notes.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the funny things is when I first started with the company, going back to that whole idea of like Glenmorangie versus Ardbeg, I had very much coming through the Scotch Malt Whisky Society for a few years working for them. I had become a raging Islay snob. All I wanted to drink was smoky whiskey. And when I moved to the US...
You say that like that's a bad thing, David, and I'm not positive I agree.
It didn't seem like a bad thing, but what was interesting was a learning. When Dr. Bill Lumsden first came to the States after I was working here, we were walking around, working around America. At one point, he actually took me aside and he said, listen, dude, I know you like Ardbeg, but you need to figure out how to appreciate Glenmorangie. And actually, it's maybe more demanding on your palate. Because once you get a taste for something like a smoky whiskey, like an Islay whiskey, people either hate it or love it. Once you love it, it almost becomes a lazy whiskey drinker's whiskey. And I'm the Ardbeg ambassador, but you know what I mean? It comes to you. If you love it, it comes to you. If you don't love it, it's brutally in your face. Whereas Glenmorangie can work for newbies, sure. But if you have gone to the sort of Islay side of things, coming back and reteaching yourself to sit and have a different approach to drinking your whiskey, and it requires a bit more focus, just like the whiskey itself, but it will pay you back, absolutely. So for me, the Glenmorangie thing, it takes a bit more effort.
I'm surprised at how quickly into my love of Islay whiskeys that the peat and smoke was no longer the predominant flavor that I picked up.
Yep,
right?
Big time.
When you first start drinking it, it's overwhelmingly smoky, and people are like, it's like licking an ashtray. I can't. And he's like, no, stick with it for a bit. Yep. Like you'll get past it. And now people talk about how peated or how smoky it is. I was like, I guess I really hadn't. I mean, I know it's there, but it's not the only thing I taste.
Guys, when you've been to Islay, I don't know if you've had the same experience as me, but when I go to Islay, even for a couple of days, and certainly if I'm there for more than a few days and bouncing around distilleries, predominantly drinking smoky whiskey, right? Not entirely, but predominantly drinking smoky whiskey. Certainly when you go to a bar, that's probably what you're trying because they've got the limited editions and everything. What happens after about day 2 or 3 is you completely go nose blind to all the smoke. And what you start picking out is the distillery characteristics of each of the Islay distilleries. I absolutely love that. And then the final point is when when you finally either take the flight back to Glasgow or the ferry over to Kennaicraig, and you get to your final destination, Glasgow or Edinburgh, probably your airport hotel, and you sit there and you grab a dram and you think, I've been on Islay, let's have something different. And the first non-smoky, non-Islay whiskey you drink doesn't half taste weird once you come back. You know?
It almost tastes candy sweet.
Yeah,
to me a lot of times.
Yeah, I've often wondered,
almost like a bourbon.
Yeah, not quite that. Not quite
right.
Bourbons are sugary,
come on,
right?
Come on.
I've
often wondered if you were a kid born on Islay. Let's say if you were a kid born in the 50s in Port Ellen. Just go with me here. You were born in the 50s in Port Ellen, right, on Islay. And the maltings was doing its thing. And you probably back then, very limited transport, probably you may not have ventured off Islay until you were 10, maybe older.
Mm-hmm.
And you were, I'm going somewhere with this, because you would have been born on that island. And every day walking around Port Ellen, going to school and all the rest, you would have had the background smell of the maltings with peat smoke. And you would have not noticed it at all from the day you were born. It's just there. Mm. That's what the world, that's what existence smells like. And the first time,
like refineries here.
I was going to say for Houston, it's refineries. The first time you
step foot on the rest of the world, mainland Scotland, you probably thought, geez, doesn't this smell weird? And the exact same response as when you or I go to Islay. You smell Port Ellen maltings going.
I just want to bottle it up every time I go. It's like, can I just bottle this smell? Oh, wait. I do.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And being born and raised in Edinburgh has, luckily, still to this day, has a particular smell. And I was always told it was the brewery, the Caledonian Brewery in Edinburgh, that was the smell, But actually, it's not. I think what the smell that pervades Edinburgh, particularly in like August, September, October, is North British Distillery, and it's the smell of of that distillery, and you can absolutely for me that just is a flashback to being a school kid in Edinburgh straight away.
Mm. All right.
So we dropped those.
This is what happens. Like, David, this is okay. This is what the show's all about.
Oh, you know what we were talking about? We were talking about. You said citrus. And I never got to my point. Bill Lumsden, when I was very much sort of waylaid in one direction, when I came to the States, Bill Lumsden told me Ardbeg has this lime juice note in Ardbeg 10.
That's exactly what.
And it took me 2 years before I found it.
Yeah,
lime juice.
It's to me, Lagavulin has lemongrass kind of note to it. Lafroig has distinct lemon, but Ardbeg is lime. And they are not like the acidity, sharpness, underlying sweetness that's different for all three of them. Yes, they're all citrusy, right? Yeah. But it's completely different citrus. And to me, it's one of those things that makes it very easy to tell which of the distillery you're coming from.
And if you are going to make a cocktail with Ardbeg, I would strongly advise you stick to limes over lemons.
I was thinking a margarita that is. I would go like a light blended Scotch with about 2/3 that with 1/3 Wee Beastie to give that smoky punch to it. Yeah, that's exactly right. We just make
Ardbeg margaritas, Ardbeg daiquiri. Ardbeg Hemingways are the way forward.
Like a classic daiquiri.
I'm from Oklahoma, and Sonic is king, right? So I know we've got Sonics here and there.
You're going to do a cherry limeade with
Cherry limeade.
That could be interesting. That could be very interesting. My buddy who gave me this glass is from Oklahoma City. So.
Very nice. Well, we're going to have to meet up, have an Oklahoma.
All right. When we give scores, David, we've always given scores based upon how much you would shell out of your pocket to pay for whiskey. Right?
That's a good way to do it.
Regardless of how much the bottle actually costs. So 100%. I'll give you the breakdown. Yeah. Anything under 60 is undrinkable swill. Even if it was free, I wouldn't drink it. Right? 60s to 70s, I'd only drink it if you were paying for it.
All right.
70s to 80, I'd be interested in paying for a glass, but I don't need a whole bottle.
Yeah.
80s to 90s, I'd love to have a bottle in my collection.
Yeah.
90s, I would go looking for this. That's one that I might not even share with somebody else. And when you go all the way up to the upper 90s, they'll find it after I'm dead, and they realize he's had that bottle all along.
It's in his
never
minis.
Ended up drinking it.
Yeah, no, it's the minis that his kids found.
All right, so that being your scale, everywhere from wouldn't drink it if anybody else would pay for it, all the way up to I would sell my children to get another bottle. Gavin. Oh shoot! I'm supposed to do that. I totally screwed this up. This is Gavin. I got to give a number first. All right, let me write it down so Gavin can't cheat off me. Claim that I cheated. I give Ardbeg 10 an 87. I think this is high in the keep in your collection list.
Yep.
There is no reason to sit in a chair out in front of your local liquor store overnight to get this because it's so readily available, right?
Yeah.
There are other releases. Pull strings and go get you one, right? But this one,
we might foreshadowing. We may get there.
We get there. All right, Gavin,
no, 100%. I would probably put it at the same sort of level, precisely because it's great whiskey. But you don't need to. You can get it. You can get it. Yep. So, but that's also interesting, isn't it? Because it kind of brings up the whole idea of again, I said the number one most variable factor is the human factor. And I see this all the time. If over the years we've had a few of our whiskeys from both brands that have, we discontinued. And usually they're discontinued because they weren't the best seller, right? Mm-hmm. But as soon as people find out it's discontinued, there's a massive run on it. Everybody runs out to get it.
It's just like a baseball card when a player passes away, the value skyrockets.
This is your next wave of brand ambassador dominance in the industry. Is you're just going to make everything a limited release. That's kind of an Ardbeg trick they're already doing, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, hey, come on now. We pulled back from that a bit. Thankfully.
I will say, in my own personal experience, one of the problems I've always had with Ardbeg is every year they have 2 or 3 limited releases, and every one of them is tasty. So I feel obligated to run out and buy all of them. I mean, so I've gotten suckered into it. There's a reason we have an entire shelf of Ardbeg behind me.
I mean, it's a challenge because people ask. I mean, we started doing a few, and then there was literally, you can't believe the emails and calls, more. So we do more, and then people start saying, too much. I'm like, well, what?
Never satisfy anybody.
All right. We need a number from Gavin.
All right. I said an 88.
88.
Cool.
All right.
So right there with the 87, I think I'm a Wee Beastie fan, so I have the Wee Beastie. I have the 10. This one just squeaks out just a little bit more than the Wee Beastie. I think the Beastie is a bit of a beast.
Yeah.
And so this one,
we actually had Wee Beastie on a previous episode that was surprise whiskeys. It was my dad was a special guest with us, and he came down and he had submitted that bottle, and his claim was he was shocked that Islay Scotch could taste that good that quickly, right? Like this idea that 5 years old and its price point made you think it's probably not that great. He's like, I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
Well, and when you look at age statement scotches, you're getting up there.
Ooh, you're setting the stage for my questions here.
10, 12, 18, 21 years, and then you get a fiver in there, and you're like, oh.
I think Islay is probably the best placed. Most distilleries on Islay are in the best position to be able to bring you a knockout whiskey very young. I mean, Kalilas I've had over the years, I think maybe the best Khalil I've ever had was from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and it was 6 years old, cask strength, single cask. Knockout, absolutely stunning. It doesn't have to be, if everything's been done right, what you like about Islay whiskey, if you're into it, a lot of that's programmed in before it even hits the still, let alone the cask. So that was the whole ethos behind Wee Beastie, was let's give Ardbeg fans, Islay fans, something as in your face as we can within reason. And initially we were thinking about it being a legally minimum 3-year-old. That was a bit, we maybe gone a bit too far there. So we kind of pulled it back to 5. But I'd be interested to see what you think.
You could have released it as a barely legal.
Yeah, oh, shit.
I mean, it's a whole different marketing strategy.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Wee Beastie's changed quite a bit in the last few years. I don't know about you. I think the flavor profile has become a bit richer, a little bit less grain forward, a little bit less barley forward. And whilst it's still obviously aggressive and young, I think the Wee Beastie right now is this is my preferred Wee Beastie over the launch one. For sure.
Yeah. I think that's, I'll be honest, I've never sat down and tasted old Wee Beastie against new Wee Beastie. But I'm always pleasantly pleased with the bottle. All right,
cool.
I'm going to present bottle number 2.
Yeah. Wait. Are we going to let David score it?
No, he said in the same range.
I
wasn't going to make him put a number. What if Bill finds this episode?
If 90 and above means a whiskey that you have to go get your lawn chair and sit outside Specs with your dome tent for a week, then Ardbeg 10 isn't that, because I know, not because it's not as good as those whiskeys, just I know I don't need to. So if that's the ethos, then high 80s, absolutely.
Right on.
All right. Okay, so this next bottle is the release for Ardbeg Day.
It is
the Dolce.
Yeah.
This one we get the fancy box and everything.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I got this bottle a couple days ago, and I couldn't contain myself, and I went and cracked it open and started drinking some.
Have you seen mine? Mine's here.
David, you might need to go grab another bottle.
You know where you can get one?
You can do better, guys. Come on.
We'll get there. Don't you worry.
I'll pour heavy for Gavin because he likes it that way.
I love it.
All right, so now the Dolce.
Cool. Yeah.
Not only is it the special release here for Ardbeg Day, which I want to talk about here in a second, but like all Ardbeg Days releases, this is something different and something fun. This has been aged in a mix.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a second about what this means. A mix of ex-bourbon and Sicilian sweet Marsala wine, or Dolce wine barrels.
Dolce Marsala. So the sweetest of the Marsalas.
So clocks in at 47.8%.
Yeah.
I believe MSRP on this is right around 110. So we've limited release, right? Takes a step up.
Yeah.
All right. So
just for this year, it should be hopefully priced $89.99 to $99.99. You might see it a bit more. Obviously, we don't get to set those prices, but that's the recommended.
I was running off of some of the international websites that have bottles available and their pricing. I happen to know my local friendly bottle shop had it under 110.
Cool. And I need to reach out to them, so I will do.
Yes. What? I've already told him just start charging your credit card. We'll figure it out.
He's got it.
I also want to thank you for the several bottles of Glenmorangie I picked up at the store too.
No, you don't know yet. Great. And the case of champagne.
So let's
scratch cards.
I had to cleanse my palate between samples, right? Like I needed something.
Hey,
That's what the 250 Marlboro Lights were about as well.
Yes.
Wait,
you know,
can you still get those?
You know it's a smoky Scotch when a cigarette is what you use to cleanse your palate. Let's talk a little bit about Fèis Ìle.
Yes.
And the special day for this episode, which is Ardbeg Day. So for someone who's never been or never heard the details of Fèis Ìle, can you give a little rundown of kind of what happens at Ardbeg for Fèis Ìle, and then what makes Ardbeg Day special compared to the rest of the week?
So Fèis Ìle is the Islay festival, technically the Islay Festival of Malt and Music. It's actually this year is its 40th anniversary. And for the first, 10, 15, 20 years, it was predominantly a folk music festival. And it was only fairly recently that the distilleries started to kind of get involved. Initially, just organically, some of them started doing, a Fèis Ìle bottling because some people were coming over for the music festival. Mm-hmm. It's very much snowballed in the last decade, 15 years into the Islay Whisky Festival, basically. And yes, there's still not to do down the music. There's still lots of other cultural things going on, which are brilliant and actually absolutely make it what it is. But it's very much become this, every distillery has its day. And we kick off, what's the first day? Is it Bruichladdich? I think Bruichladdich is day 1 or 2. And then Ardbeg has traditionally always had the last day of the festival. Although this year, as the number of distilleries has expanded, it used to be nice and simple, 7 days, 7 distilleries, easy. Now there's some doubling up, and there's a final Sunday of the Fèis as well now.
Darn it.
Oh, darn it.
Just going to add more days.
And if you really want to go hardcore, the Campbelltown Malts Festival latches on to the front end of the Fèis Ìle. So I have friends who are currently in Campbelltown and will then go straight to Islay. There you go.
It's not a bad play. Saves money on the airline ticket, right? You only have to fly over once.
Just go from one. I love this.
So every distillery has its day. We've always had a brilliant party. I think every distillery does a great job. They're all brilliant days, and that's I'm going and I'm going to make my way to probably every day. Although I have work to do as well, so hosting people and such like. So I may miss a couple. I'm doing my darndest to get to the majority of the distillery's days. Catch up with people I know who are friends, who have been colleagues in the past, all the rest of it. And then Ardbeg is the last, still really the last day of the festival. And it kind of starts with Bruichladdich, I guess, pretty much with a very big event. They do a huge almost a rock festival with some relatively well-known bands in Scotland, at least, coming over this year. I'm really looking forward to that. Adam Hannett, their distillery manager, brilliant. I'm looking forward to his seminar. I got myself, a friend gave me a ticket to that, very hard to get. And then what have we got? We've got the Moore Day, Kilhoman Day, Lagavulin Lafroig Day, Kalila Day, somewhere in there, I forget which day. And then we kind of round it out with Ardbeg Day. And what's great about Ardbeg Day is that a lot of the locals who work at all the other distilleries have had a really busy time of it, right? And they're off. They're off scot-free. So they all come to our day, and there's a lot of locals and a lot of craziness at Ardbeg Day. And it's just bloody good fun. It's brilliant.
So when you get together with the same kind of people in that kind of environment, other global brand ambassadors, we didn't even mention yet that you are a keeper of the Quake.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when you...
we proudly say the second keeper that we've had on the show.
Yeah.
Ah.
So We've had Sam Filmus, if you know Sam
Oh, cool.
Filmus.
Yeah.
We've had Sam on the show. So
awesome.
When you get together with those kind of that esteem of people, right? Like I can only imagine.
You mean like equivalent to like getting to come on the Noble Dram,
right?
Same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What an honor it must be.
An honor. I can only imagine the conversations that are happening. Like one being in Scotland on Islay and just bringing, because we mentioned on the first bottle just the different brands, and you just listed a bunch of other brands. The idea that it's just a big community, right? I mean, we all are whiskey nerds, and we're all coming into this.
I forgot to mention Bunnahabhain, but one of my absolute favorite whiskeys. I can't believe I missed that out, but yeah.
One of the things that I've always loved about the whiskey community in general, not just Scotch, but whiskey in a larger sense, is the level of camaraderie that exists amongst competitors.
Yeah.
Right? Would be a good way to word it. The idea that I really want to see the other guys around me also succeed, and that we get together and share stuff, whether that's ideas or approaches, or hell, sometimes it's equipment.
It
right?
really is.
Guys having
that
problems
story about and it's told a lot by distillery managers and ambassadors for Islay distilleries about, if a piece of kit breaks, one of us will loan it. And I'm sure a lot of, whiskey drinkers outside of the industry think, right, bullshit. Genuinely, I know of occasions where that has happened. I know where in the middle of winter, when we've been on production and there's been a 2-week bloody storm and no ferries and no flights are coming back in the Mickey Head era of Ardbeg. I forget the exact details, but we had something break on our boiler, I think, and one of the other distilleries had the piece of kit, and we couldn't get it. We would have had to have shut the distillery. You don't run a distillery without a boiler. So we were loaned their spare piece of kit until we could get a replacement. There you go. I mean, it happens, and we are massively competitors at the coalface when it comes to sales and the sales directors. Yeah, absolutely competitors. But when it comes to the guys on the island, it's all hands to the pump, I guess. And the ambassador sits in both camps. But I think the camaraderie of ambassadors is what's the strongest thing. We all got into it because we're passionate about it. Hopefully.
So there's a couple questions, and some of these can be yes or no's if you need. So did you get into working in the whiskey industry because you love Scotch, or did you learn to love Scotch after you joined the whiskey industry?
The first. Okay. I didn't like Scotch growing up, born and raised in Edinburgh. Had my first encounter with Scotch whiskey by stealing from my dad's drinks cabinet.
As you do.
Christmas holiday party in about whatever the year was, probably around about the 15th, 20th of December. My parents went out to a holiday party, left me at home. I reached to the back of my dad's drinks cabinet, found this dusty old bottle of cheap blended Scotch, and went to town. And didn't like it, wasn't very well the next day. And in hindsight, realized why my dad had left the cheap bottle of blended Scotch covered in dust where it was. Someone, I asked him about it. Someone had gifted it to him, and he thought, I don't like that, not drinking that.
No, that's not good
stuff. There it was. And so that put me off all the way through college. So from the age of 15, I didn't really get into Scotch until I was about 24. It took me almost a decade to appreciate it. But there was a 6 to 9 month period around about then where all the light bulbs went off at once. And I just thought, wow, what have I been missing? And I was very much into wine. My dad had been into wine I remember being at that sort of age of 14, 15. And my dad, really not having a huge amount of money. My parents were school teachers, but being very selective and particular about choosing bottles of red wine in particular and letting me taste it. And I really kind of started understanding that. So that transferred when I was in my 20s to this, oh my God, I don't have to go to France and Italy, much as I still love that. We've got this amazing thing on our doorstep I never knew about. That was it. And it took me about, from the moment I got into that light bulb went off and I realized I was into single malt Scotch, it took me maybe 12 months, 18 months before I was in the industry. I had to. So absolutely, no. And I think I've seen a few ambassadors who have gone the other way, who have been hired and, they'll get it in the end. So I can think of a couple of ambassadors who are absolutely brilliant, who have actually probably gone in that direction. But most often that doesn't work, just doesn't work.
Yeah, right. Makes sense.
I like to consider us ambassadors.
Yeah.
We are local, non-brand specific ambassadors.
100%.
Right? Would be the best way to describe
we're just,
right?
And I don't want to be considered a podcaster or a content creator. I just want to be considered a whiskey ambassador.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. If the money was good enough, we'd pick a brand. But right now, we are non-brand specific.
There's a few interesting things there because first off, I've been an ambassador now so bloody long that I predate social media.
Exactly. Right.
And initially I didn't see a problem. And then there was a period of time where I thought, oh my God, my job's done. The ambassador's dead. It's all influencers. But I think as with all things, it's evened out, and there's room for everybody because if you're into it, you're into it, and the people that aren't will get shown up. Ultimately, they won't succeed. And then the other thing was you said if I got paid to do it, I'd do it. So I genuinely, I was working for Scotch Malt Whisky Society as my first job where I didn't have to choose a brand. And it was brilliant learning because I had to present any given distillery on any particular tasting night. So you learn pretty quickly. And then when I was looking for a job that paid better, I don't know how they pay now, but the previous iteration of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society did not pay well. At all back in the day. And I was looking
you were getting experience.
I was getting tons of experience and I was doing tastings. In my first couple of months, I got invited into the tasting panel for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society once or twice a week, sometimes twice a week, guys, over a year. And guess who was chairing that panel? Charlie McLean. It's just wild. And Robin Lang, R.I.P., sadly passed away recently. But and others. But to think back now, and the fact that I just got to do something, and it was after work. We didn't get paid, but we got for every tasting panel I attended and volunteered at, I got, of course, to get the brain dump of Charlie McLean, but also we got to notch up. They kept a tally, and every one we did, we got half a bottle of Society whiskey. So I was doing 2 a week, and once a week I would go in there, and they didn't care what price point it was. You got to just pick a bottle out of inventory and take it home.
Holy smokes!
Yeah. So between Charlie McLean's, Charlie and Robin Lang, just pouring knowledge and passion, more than knowledge, down onto me, and walking away with a bottle of Society whiskey a week.
I'm in. I'll do it. I'll do it.
It wasn't bad.
Sign us up.
Earlier, you were making this, you made a reference to the fact that as a brand ambassador, you kind of bridge the world of sales and production.
Yeah.
I happen to also be in sales in a completely different industry, but one of the things
I'm in the production.
He's in the production side, right? So cool. It was a thought that came to me as we were preparing for this. How much feedback do you get? Like, how much say do you have as somebody who goes out and sees the market to come back to your production team and say, we should try something like this, or we should do something different? Does that loop close, so to speak?
I'm very fortunate that even though we're owned by a big multinational, our Glenmorangie company is still run as the Glenmorangie company, as a separate business unit. And the ethos of Dr. Bill Lumsden, arguably the most kind of awarded, most iconic whiskey maker, full stop, is that he's very open to ideas. And I have had many occasions over my career to input ideas, and a few of them have made their way into bottles, and several of them are in cask, still to be unleashed on the world. And then also in terms of feedback for new whiskies that we bring out, or some good feedback, bad feedback, he's all ears. I will WhatsApp him at any time of the day or night. If I get some feedback, it's straight back to the man himself. Absolutely.
That's fun.
So it's and I've had the huge, probably the privilege of my career. About 4 years ago, Dr. Bill, talking about Glenmorangie again, but opened this lighthouse experimental plant at Glenmorangie, where it's just a set of stills with all sorts of bells and whistles on it, set aside from the main still house, dedicated to just doing experiments. And after a couple of weeks of just bedding it in and making sure it could make classic Glenmorangie spirit, because we have to start there, the very first experiment ever run in history on the Lighthouse stills was myself and my colleague Dan Kroll, US National Glenmorangie Ambassador. Bill flew us over, and we had 2 or 3 experiments we wanted to do, and we got to do them in person on those stills with the team who run those stills. But yeah, they were our projects that got run first.
Were those some of the things that made bottles?
Not yet. They're only just Scotch whiskey. I do have a couple of cast samples. I have a couple of new make samples and a couple of cast samples, and they're approaching 4 years old right now. So they are legally Scotch. They'll be a while still. It was tiny production, but trying all sorts of funky stuff. I mean, stuff that on the Lighthouse we don't need to even. For the experiments, Bill's like, don't even consider the Scotch whiskey laws. Just try stuff to learn. Do stuff that break all the rules. If you want to make a gin or a pechuga, whatever, make a mezcal, do or whatever, a million things. Or make a Scotch whiskey, but use it, use different grains. Do anything you want. So it's open.
So we touched a little bit on, and kind of to keep in essence of this conversation, we've touched a little bit on the legacy of Ardbeg, and you've mentioned some of the folks that have been involved. 20 years from now, what do you hope that people look back on this era of Ardbeg and say, I want to remember that? Like, that is the one thing that really spoke to me for this era of Ardbeg. Okay.
That's a question no one's ever asked me.
Is it your suaveness? It's your suaveness and Scottishness.
I think, first off, the number one thing, if I had a prayer for Ardbeg for 20 years' time, is just a very simple one, that Ardbeg is still thriving, and that it's still open, and that people still like Islay whiskey, and that it's still providing jobs for the community on Islay. But really getting back to your question of like, what's the legacy in 20 years from now? What are people going to say about now? Again, I just hope they think we were good caretakers of a brand and a distillery that was around long before any of us were alive. And if we've done our job, we'll be in a healthier place once we've shuffled off, and we'll be around long after we're forgotten. And it's easy as an ambassador to believe your own brand is the most important thing, and I've fallen into that, I'm sure, over the years. But the biggest danger for an ambassador is to think you're bigger than the brand. And you're absolutely not. Nobody is. Bill Lumsden isn't bigger than these brands. These brands hopefully will exist when we're all forgotten. We're a footnote somewhere. If you, I've looked back at the names of people that have run both our two distilleries. I can't even remember them all, but they've all contributed through their career. It was their brand, you know.
I think it's a beautiful way to put it, to say that we carried the legacy.
Yeah.
Scotch, maybe more than any other drink, has such a long life cycle from production to consumption that the window in which you or anyone else gets to have been part of the beginning and seen the end is a very small portion of your
100%.
Your experience.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you do is lay down whiskey for the next generation, or blend and bottle whiskey from a previous generation.
Absolutely.
So this poetic look at it of we're carrying on that legacy, and we're just it's not ours. We're just carrying the burden for a short period of time.
I remember my first day at Glenmorangie Distillery, and I remember being allowed, they unlocked the spirit safe, and they let me put my hands into the new spirit and like this. And I remember saying to Kenny, it was Kenny MacDonald, who is still there as our stillman. And I said to him right that day in 2005, it's weird to think that this new spirit will be our 18-year-old one day. Maybe it might be bottled as a 10-year-old. Even that seemed a long way off, but it might be our 18-year-old. Guys, that was 3 years ago that spirit became our 18-year-old, 2.5, 3 years ago. It just blows my mind that cask, that spirit had its moment in the sun, literally bubbling off those stills, bright, and then it went into a cask, and it sat in 100% darkness in a warehouse for like 2 decades. It's just madness. I love that. I could never work for a spirit that just came off the still and went into a bottle. I don't think so. There's no romance.
I mean, in our industry, right? Because we work in similar industry or same industry, essentially. In 20, 30 years, people are probably demoing out, trashing what we've done, right? Like, and your industry, or in the whiskey industry, specifically in Scotch, it's just starting to hit people's palates at that point, right? And
I had a proposal in about 2011. I was over in Scotland, and we did a little sort of, we called them a think tank, obviously, and we were blah, blah, blah. We were just throwing ideas around. And I came with a few proposals, and one of them got kind of laughed out of the room, particularly by the finance guys. Because I wanted to say, I said, Glenmorangie's, sorry, we're talking Glenmorangie, but this was a Glenmorangie focused thing. I'll move back to Ardbeg. But the idea was to try and adjust how we made the new spirit to actually make a Glenmorangie that would be heavier and oilier on purpose, and set it aside in the right sort of very almost tired casks, so that we could try and make the perfect balance of like a 60, 70-year-old Glenmorangie in the future. How would you make an old whiskey if you started from scratch with every single parameter set aside? And the cost of doing it was going to be really high. So the capex was now, and the outcome, if it was going to work, which was not a given, was after everyone in the room was dead. So guess what? That one didn't happen. Sadly,
it's hard to allocate resources to something you'll never see come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, but not to say we haven't done projects like that, but that was maybe me pushing for an extreme on that. But there's lots of things like that. At Ardbeg, there's loads of things we've been doing to try and just add our little fingerprint to to it for the future. For example, fermentation and looking at slower fermentation times and longer fermentations. That's something that's now rolled out pretty much as a regular thing at Ardbeg with the longer fermentation.
I have a question because Gavin made reference when sipping Ardbeg 10 that he picked up that grainy note, and it made me think, what is your typical fermentation time?
Oh, gosh.
For Ardbeg, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off
Down
the top
to
of
the
my
nearest
head.
hour.
Things have just changed in the last things have just changed in the last few months. So I'm not 100% certain, but it has got a little bit longer again. And the other thing that's happened is the high gravity mash that we did for, what was the high gravity mash Ardbeg? I've just had a mind blank. Anyway, that's something that we have decided to pretty much roll through as a permanent thing. So we're using less water, which will end up with a much richer flavor profile. We're hoping much more fruity notes.
All right. Well, speaking of flavor profiles,
Yes, sir.
we should chat about the Dolce and what we have in the glass. So on the nose, I'll point to Gavin again. So I will come clean. Sometimes before we get started on an episode, we put a little pour in a glass.
Yeah, as you said.
To prepare our palate. And Gavin was so excited because he didn't get to try the Dolce the other day. When I cracked the bottle open, he wanted to try it again. So we did a splash, and we did a splash both with and without bites of dark chocolate. So some of my tasting notes have still got my memory of the dark chocolate thrown in there too. So
that's okay.
With that being said, what I will say is if you get a chance to take a bite of dark chocolate with Dolce, it gets significantly better. And it starts pretty damn tasty to begin with.
I'm actually doing on Ardbeg Day, I will be doing we're going to have a pop-up kind of bar somewhere located around the distillery in the courtyard. And a good friend of mine, Tanny Gill, who has started the Scottish Cheese Academy. And he is the number one expert in cheese in Scotland. And I've actually had him do something a little different. He's not just an expert in Scottish cheese. And for Dolce, for Ardbeg Day this year, we've sourced 4 or 5 delicious, unusual Italian cheeses. And we're going to have David Blackmore and Tanny Gill are manning an Ardbeg and Italian cheese pairing booth at Ardbeg Day this year.
All right. So I have a question. Before we get into this. Before we get into the notes.
David's got a plane to get on.
I know.
You got to cut it short.
Are you a stinky cheese kind of guy, or like what's your cheese?
Yes.
Yeah.
All cheese and stinky cheese is brilliant. All of it.
Right.
Cheese is brilliant.
A few years ago, my dad and I find ourselves on a cruise, and we find out that they had Lefroy 10-year is one of the whiskeys on the boat. And if we just asked, the wait staff would have a plate of blue cheese and a glass of Lefroy waiting for us at dinner when we arrived.
Yeah.
And we every night showed up to a table with blue cheese and Lefroy, and those two together were absolutely phenomenal.
Guys, the number one thing for me is Ardbeg 10 and Parmigiano Reggiano is
salty.
Oh my God! Honestly, try it. Ardbeg 10, specifically 10, and Parmigiano Reggiano is unreal.
There is nothing about Italy my wife doesn't love. So there's a good chance I've got a block of Parmigiano Reggiano in the fridge, and I've got our big 10-year. That might be dessert after we
I'm very excited that I literally woke up this morning. I've been trying to make this happen for about 5 years, but I have a friend. I guess not that he's not a great friend, because just I don't spend that much time with him. A friend, I guess. And he's also a friend of a friend as well, who owns a bar on the shores of Lake Como. And I've had this dream because I just stumbled in, but not literally, but I went in there when I first discovered the place for a drink and discovered Ardbeg, 2 bottles of Ardbeg on the bar and an Ardbeg-based cocktail on his menu. And then I introduced myself and we were just, I was on vacation. I've been trying to do something there in my mind for years and it's just never happened. And I thought this year it wasn't going to happen again. And this morning he WhatsApped me to say, hey, his bar, I've decided I'm going to do an Ardbeg event. Are you by any chance going to be in Italy on this date? And you know what? By chance, I actually am. So it's on, baby.
It's July on, 2nd,
baby. July 2nd.
I will have a hard time convincing my wife to go any place on the globe on a short's notice, but Italy's totally a yes every time I would ask. So you've got my email address. If it comes up,
it's part of the lake, the July, the 4th of July weekend. If you're gonna leave the US and do something different, the Lake Como Cocktail Festival is always that round about that weekend, and it might not be the worst thing in the world to do.
So as a Scotsman who now lives in America, you may see this differently, but there is nothing I can think that would be better than leaving the United States over 4th of July and just running our mouth in every other country I'm in. All right. Let's talk about what's in this glass.
All right.
Yes.
Your bottle.
You go first.
I go first.
On the nose.
On the nose. I think there is obviously there's some smokiness to it. There's lemon, there's orange. I think there's a hint of dark chocolate, right? You can't get away from that. There's a slight cinnamon, almost.
There's a spice to the backside of that. So what I'll say is from when we tasted it earlier, I picked up on orange and chocolate to begin with, but I didn't find it exceptionally sweet. And then a bite of kind of bitter dark chocolate, and all of a sudden the orange became much bigger in the palate, and it really turned candy, almost like a candy orange, like lollipop sort of deal. Like it really went sugary orange candy.
I get a lot of apricot.
I get a lot of apricot. The challenge when you tell people orange is they think either orange juice, and sometimes what you mean is orange zest.
Yeah.
And I'll say on the nose, I think it's a more orange zest than orange juice.
You're right, though, because orange could be anything from orange juice to orange zest to orange marmalade to bitter orange. I mean, the Italian heritage is to have these. If you've ever tried, here's one for you: Kinotto. Kinotto is a soft drink in Italy, and it looks like Coca-Cola, the color of it. But it is, imagine Coca-Cola and Fernet or Campari or an Amaro had a baby.
Okay.
It is bitter. And so Kinotto is I think this is true. It's a bitter orange, much smaller, that was imported way back to Italy from China. And it's very much an Italian flavor, that kind of that Amaro bitter thing. And so, anyway, orange could be a whole load of different things, and particularly when you're talking Italy.
It's bright orange or it's burnt orange.
When you get orange blossom. Sometimes in Glenmorangie, I get orange blossom. Sometimes that smell of almost like honeysuckle as well.
I like your reference to like Aperol Spritz. Yeah. Kind of that kind of sharp orange, but yet still fruity sweetness. I see that as well. I think on the palate, it turns sweeter for me. I think on the nose, it's a little more bitter, sharp, and then it turns sweeter on the palate for me.
There's a salinity that's almost like there's something on the nose that's like salted cashews, but like there's chocolate coated or something like something like that
on it,
like a sea salt and dark chocolate almond to me.
Yeah. There's there was always a chocolate brand called Green and Blacks. I haven't seen that brand for a while, but they always did an orange and sea salt crystal embedded dark chocolate. And that thing, if you want to look like a god with your whiskey and chocolate pairings, that chocolate bar pairs with every whiskey. You can't go wrong.
we live in Texas, and HEB is a HEB has a brand of dark chocolate sea salt roasted almonds, and they are absolutely the best Scotch snack I've run across.
100%.
So,
I have a theory that you don't go too far wrong with food and Scotch whiskey pairings if you choose, sadly, for my waistline, food that's got a relatively high fat content, because you eat the chocolate or the cheese or when I worked in London. So the Scotch Malt Whisky Society bar I managed in London was about a block away from Smithfield Meat Market, the original meat market in London, which is surrounded by traditional English butcher shops. And I would go and get handmade English bangers, sausages. And I would take some of the whiskey in, and they would put it into the sausages, and then we'd do pairings. Again, fat content, the fat coats your palate. You do that first, then the whiskey, the alcohol strips it away, and you get this revelation of flavor. It's an absolute no-brainer. Salmon, smoked salmon, all works.
I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah, me too. So one of the challenges we always have on recording days, I have to eat lunch, because by the time I get home, I don't really have time to eat dinner before. Yep. Plus, to our earlier comment, I don't want to eat something that's going to shift my palate before we sit down and taste.
I roasted a tri-tip for my family right before we started this, so there's going to be. I think, hopefully there's some left, but there's going to be cold tri-tip downstairs later.
I have eaten many a cold meal standing in front of the fridge after recording, for sure.
Shoveling it in.
All right, we got to give it a number.
All right.
Yeah.
I've already written mine down.
I've written mine down.
I'm interested to hear.
All right. I said 91 on this one.
I'm at 93. I think this is excellent. This is one of the challenges we run into on every Ardbeg limited release is there's going to be a moment where there's none left in this bottle, and I'm sad.
Yeah.
Only till I realize I got two, so I've got one more to drag out.
And one for me to pour some minis on the way out.
There you go.
Yeah, the only problem is my dad's coming into town this week because my son's graduating from high school, and he's going to want to know if that bottle was one I picked up for him. And I'm going to have to tell my dad no. Now that I'm
for me, Dolce is one of the Ardbeg day bottlings in the last decade that I'm most excited about. I have to say, it's really good.
All right,
and after a couple of years where I've been like, maybe a bit more, this one's right up there for me.
Okay, this is one we create all these. We work really hard to come up with thought-provoking and entertaining questions, right? And then we always create a list of, like, if we just need to fill 5 minutes, what dumb questions can you ask? And maybe this isn't as dumb as that suggests, but of all the Ardbeg day releases, what's the one you're like, man, that one was killer?
Oh, crap.
Don't tell us the one don't tell us about the stinker. You don't have to out anything. But
so
what was that one?
First of all, remember what was actually an Ardbeg day bottling.
I got a list. You want the list?
Do you know Dark Cove was very high up on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Black, very high up on my list. The original Ardbeg day is very hard to beat. 2012. Something like that. Crazy
if
good.
If you know where I can get a splash, let me know. I would love to try. I was so
He'd like a splash.
I do my research, right? I
might have to come up and visit me.
All of the Ardbeg day releases, and I went through this list and realized that over the years, not currently, because some of these bottles have been finished and gone, I'm well over half of the Ardbeg day releases I owned without really understanding that they were Ardbeg day releases, right?
And And the other thing that for many years we did a committee version and a regular version of the Ardbeg Day bottling, right? So there was a cream label and a black label. Cream labels tend to mean it's a committee ultra limited. Ardbeg committee cream labels don't have to be Ardbeg Day bottlings. We'll do committee bottlings that aren't Ardbeg Day at all, just to confuse everyone.
Yep.
But in the last few years, kind of back to what you said, like, oh, Ardbeg's got 1 million releases. We have kind of realized maybe we went over the top. So for the last 2 or 3 years, we've only released a single bottling of Ardbeg, of the Ardbeg Day. There's not been a second version of it. I pushed very hard for the one version to be the higher strength committee bottling, and lost that argument for now, although maybe not forever. I think all of us whiskey nerds would prefer there to be just the higher proof one rather than just the slight. I mean, it's not low proof, but it would be fun if it was just the higher proof one. But there,
it was always the fun when you went to the store and stumbled into the bottle, and you're like, "Oh, I have that one. Wait a second, no, that's the committee one, right?"
Yeah.
Which was always a fun treat when you were rummaging through the shelves.
The whole committee thing's been really interesting because, you know, being with the company forever now, I remember when we didn't even bring committee bottlings to the States. And
I know, me too.
Right, and the committee, for me, and to an extent, I'm always arguing in favor of the US-based committee, because my argument to our team in Scotland is always, what's in it? Why would you sign up? What's it? What benefit is there? And so the first thing I try to do, what's that?
You get the email that tells you about the things you can't have.
You get that, but I think we could do. I think we could do a lot more. And so the first thing I did was I was part of the 2 or 3 people that kind of really pushed to say, listen, bringing the committee bottle to the US or committee bottlings to the US is going to be fraught with difficulties because of the law. You know, in the UK and many other countries, we can insist that you have to be a committee member. You have to sign into the committee part of our website, and then you get to buy the bottle. And if you're not a committee member, you don't. So there's a benefit. We can't do that in the States for many, many reasons that are very boring and immovable. And it is what it is. So my point of view was, well, no, the US is our biggest market. We have the most Ardbeg fans here. We should be bringing it to the US and recognizing that we are going to get a lot of people who are very frustrated that they didn't get it, but someone else did. But that's still better than just not bringing it here at all. You know.
Well, you got 2 right here. We're in. So I know you were running a little late, and you're trying to prep for got a flight. But I do have a question for you.
Sure.
On this show, we often talk about bourbon drinkers and like what we would suggest for them to tippy-toe into Scotch. Right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as somebody who also lives in Texas, if you had a Scotch drinker that doesn't know much about bourbon, what would you suggest to them?
Is there a bottle you take with you?
Well, I actually went out this afternoon and bought 3 bottles of a Texas whiskey to take to Scotland. To take to Scotland to give to, well, this will be out after I actually give it to them. So I think so that's okay.
You got about a week, yeah.
Yeah. So I bought 3 bottles of the same whiskey, which it's a Texas whiskey, and I don't know an awful lot about it. I know that I've tasted it and I like it, and I've been to the distillery because it's not very far from my house up here. And it is Iron Root. And I got them 3 bottles of, I think it's Harbinger is the one I bought.
Yeah.
The new bottle, I met the guys last year. I went to their anniversary party, and what a lovely family they are. And if they're watching this, first off, it's the new bottle shape. I don't know if you've seen the new bottle shape. Wow, that's a trade up. That made me go, that made me do that, reaching out to the shelf straight away. So I know it's great whiskey. For me, it's my favorite Texan whiskey by some margin.
We just had a buddy on a couple weeks ago, and we asked him if you were describing which Texas whiskey turned you on to Texas whiskey. He mentioned that exact same bottle. So two endorsements.
Yeah.
Right here. I guess we're going to need a bottle of Harbinger right here.
I guess we're going to have Iron Root.
When you come up to visit the distillery, you should do something at the distillery, and then I'm 45 minutes away. You can come into this room and we'll drink some Ardbeg.
Done.
Sold.
Right. There you go. But yeah, that's what I'm taking.
We can be there in 3.5 hours. We'll see you in a bit.
I'll be getting up to go to the airport probably almost.
To be honest, you don't need to stick around. We'll just drink whiskey in your room.
Dude, I've done that once before. I did that last year. I was very jet lagged. We had a Halloween party. A bunch of friends and neighbors came over, and I put myself to bed because I was just exhausted at about 11:30 p.m. And at 2:30 or 3 a.m., the last of the guys in my neighborhood left. And then I came back to my whiskey room, and there were some bottles like, God damn you finished what?
Yes. Between opening bottles and finishing bottles. Yeah.
But that didn't really answer the question. But so that's what I'm taking to Scotland. If I was trying to get someone into bourbon or American whiskey even, who hadn't tried it, I mean, I just go back to what I first got into when I moved to the States. And this is a personal answer. I don't know if it's a good answer, but I don't think you can go too far wrong with Four Roses. I love Four Roses. I mean, just small batch, not even the single barrel. Four Roses, small batch. Just, it's good.
I was gonna point, but I think that it's the shelf above the camera. I got about 8 bottles of Four Roses, various releases.
That stuff is. Do you know what? People love to knock the yellow label. Even that stuff for what it is. There's nothing much wrong with that yellow label.
Yes.
There's many much more expensive American whiskeys that aren't a patch on that.
Agreed.
Like that
Absolutely.
But the small batch is where I'd be at. What else? And this might not get your approval, and it certainly, but I think it deserves a lot more recognition for being right at the forefront of making American whiskey something people are into again. Just Maker's Mark. I remember the day when people were like Maker's. I've been in this industry long enough. In 2005, if you were drinking Maker's Mark, you were at the vanguard of like geeky American whiskey drinking. Genuinely. Which is a weird thought, right? But it's just well made. It may not be to everyone's taste, but Four Roses would be my main answer.
Can't argue with either pick. Yeah. Both of them, we have several bottles of each.
Agreed.
I could go esoteric, and there's all sorts of stuff. I'm not as big a American whiskey drinker as I am a Scotch whiskey drinker. I don't know that much about American whiskey. I know what I like, but yeah, I mean.
This may be part of it, but I'm assuming you have a pretty solid connection to a couple decent Scotch brands that make it easier to drink. Right? Like, I understand it. I'm going to tell you right now, if you told me I could drink all the Ardbeg I want, and you just keep sending me bottles, I'd stop drinking bourbon too.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I've had, being the Ardbeg ambassador, you have to realize that a lot of people are very jealous of your job, but also there's a lot of people out there who either want you to think they know more about Ardbeg than you do, or often genuinely actually do know a lot more about Ardbeg than I do. And that's cool. But I've had a couple of occasions where people are just adamant in tastings, like trying to trip me up almost. And I had to stop one guy years ago, and I just said, listen, mate, this is great. I get it. You know more about Ardbeg than I do. But here's the thing. You have to pay to drink Ardbeg, and I get paid to drink Ardbeg.
Yeah, that's the scoreboard reference for sure.
It might not have been my most diplomatic moment as an ambassador, and I'm not that proud of that moment.
Fair.
But,
I mean,
what really got me was, yes,
mic
maybe
drop.
I was a bit of a dick there. But at the same time, most people, that's a rare occasion, because most people inside the industry and outside, but as our beloved fans, are not like that, and there can be a bit of banter here and there about oh, you didn't know that. That's great, but it's always good natured. It just very rarely becomes anything else, and that's what I love about it.
Well, David, let us first say thank you very much for being a part of the Noble Dram tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It's been so much fun to chat with you. We will absolutely be emailing, asking about the next time we can come to Fort Worth and drink, whether it's American-made whiskeys or Scottish whiskeys. We would love to do this again. So thank you very much. It's been an
Hey guys, we should do it. Why don't you come up here and we can see if we could film a Glenmorangie one in this room.
I would love it.
I'm in.
That could be fun.
I'm in.
Right.
When do you get back? No, I'm teasing. We'll figure out a day. So how we end these, we raise a glass and say cheers.
Cheers.
And Slanchava.
Slanchava.
We want to thank you, our noble listener, for joining us.
We believe each whiskey has a story, and so do you. So give us your thoughts by leaving a comment.
And if you have a whiskey you'd like to see us share, let us know.
You don't want to miss a single episode, so subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay up to date on the Noble Dram.
And if you find watching us difficult, you can always listen to each episode on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
As always, be noble
and enjoy your dram responsibly.